Don't forget to do your local recording.
Click the button. Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 267 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one book club podcast in Canada. We're recording on October 26, 2020. As always, my name is Andrew. Joining me tonight is Gavin.
And we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Version of the show is available Stitcher and iTunes.
Make sure to check the podcast out on social media. We can be found on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and on Instagram at Canadian Patriot Podcast.
Once you've gone and liked and subscribed at those two places, head on over to Patreon because we need your help. You can become a Patreon for just $1 an episode. Since we've moved to the 2-show-a-week COVID format, Patreons also get early access to the midweek show, this show that we're doing live right now. Show you're not a communist, buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, our homepage, and follow the link on the right.
That brings us to What Are We Drinking? This is my favorite segment in the show. It's where I ask my co-panelist, Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking almost the last of the Appletons that I have. And Pepsi again. It's what I have on hand.
I accept this barbarism. I'm drinking Black Swan Brewing's IPA. You can tell it's very fancy because it's got an adhesive label on a plain can.
Oh, only the fanciest for you today.
It's weird. I think pre-corona, I don't even remember buying anything from these guys from Black Swan in a can. It was always in a growler. So I would just go with like the 64-ounce glass jug and be like, I want more beer. And they would give me more beer and take money.
And then they were like, this is your fourth time here today, Andrew. Just buy more than one at a time.
Okay, so quick anecdote. I was out with a friend of mine that I work with, and we were trying to have beer one day during Coronication. And since we weren't going to the office or anything, we just got together to have a beer, as one does. We went all over trying to find a beer place that was open, and I finally just like walked into Black Swan by accident because we were walking past it, and I know where their like back door is. So I just walked into the brewery because the door was open and there were people working, but they're like, yeah, you guys can't come in here. We're closed. Corona. I'm like, but I can smell and see beer. Like I would like beer, and there's nowhere to buy beer right now. We can't find beer. So they may have allowed me to procure beer during a time when they should not have been selling beer out the back door of their shop.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Because I don't know what the deal was. For whatever reason, they were closed, but I could still like buy beer from them. It was very weird.
Well, I mean, every dog has his day, and you had yours. You were able to get beer when you needed it, and you couldn't get it anywhere else. They got money.
That's what counts. Let's going to the reason that we're gathered here this evening. It's time for Book and Rifle Club. It's the last Wednesday of the month. And on the last Wednesday of the month, as is tradition, we do book club on Canadian Patriot Podcast. And for the October book, we're doing Left of Bang, How the Marine Corps Combat Hunter Program Can Save Your Life by Patrick Van Horn. And if you use the link in the show notes to buy the book on Amazon or anything else on Amazon, we get a commission from that through their affiliate program. And I appreciate that because last month it bought my son's diapers, which is great because diapers are expensive. So if you're shopping on Amazon, if you're buying this book, if you're buying anything else, if you use our affiliate link, I would appreciate that. And so would my son. Not really. He hates diapers. He's like 3. But
better
anyway,
than the alternative.
On to the book. Yeah, we talked about the alternative earlier. He wasn't down with that. You mean the potty, right?
I meant pooping himself in just like his regular pants, but sure.
Yeah, no.
Potty too.
No, that's less of a even
to
the book. I'm actually starting at the end of the book. Put the book up here for the camera on the YouTube. I'm starting at the end of the book, which is unusual, but a final letter. Dear reader, our goal for this book was simple: to make Marines, soldiers, law enforcement officers, and anyone else who has dedicated their life to protecting our society more effective in hunting our enemies and increasing their ability to recognize threats. These areas will make Marines more survivable on patrol, both while deployed and at home. The information in this book has been previously inaccessible to most Marines. We hope to change that. Developing into a profiler will be a roller coaster ride. It certainly has been for us. There will be times when you think that this is the most fascinating thing that you've ever done in your life. There will be other times when the frustration will seem insurmountable and you will want to take a break from analyzing every gesture that you are observing. That is completely natural. There will be times when you believe that your observations are absolutely spot on and you feel extremely confident in what you identify. Other times you will question yourself and feel that you are no closer to understanding humans than you were before you started studying this field. This is also natural and you will get past it. But you have to stick to it. We do not claim to be experts. We only claim that we are striving to become experts and are taking the same journey that we hope we have inspired you to take. It isn't a journey that any of us will ever complete. As soon as you believe that you're an expert in your field, you will no longer have the drive to keep learning. Humans are diverse, adapting, and changing. There is always something to learn. The 6 domains of combat profiling and the content in this book should provide you with the foundation to grow in that pursuit. Good luck. Never forget, never quit. Semper Fidelis. Patrick Van Horn and Jason A. Riley. Not a bad way to end a book.
No. I mean, I think it's a very humble way to put it as well. I mean, and kind of really does explain what the book was designed for and what the whole program as a whole was designed for.
Well, let's touch briefly on the program and the book. So, Left of Bang, how the Marine Corps Combat Hunter program can save your life. So obviously this is about the United States Marine Corps. General Mattis had good things to say about it, as does Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, although he was an Army Lieutenant Colonel. We'll still give it to him. The Combat Hunter program is a program that some Marines are able to go through prior to deploying. And one of the pillars of the Combat Hunter program is combat profiling, which is what the book Left of Bang is really about, is about combat profiling.
Yeah. And I guess part of the reason why they started rolling this out to more and more people is that, like, as the, I guess, pace of war or the battlescape changes, and we're not so much like this group of people in clearly marked uniforms versus that group of people also in clearly marked uniforms, it becomes a lot harder to determine who is and is not a threat, because they all look the same, because it's all just people in the local population that are blending in. So how do you know who's the bad guy and who's not? And that's kind of what this book is all about.
Yeah, so let's talk about the pillar of the Combat Hunter program. The Combat Hunter program is a whole thing that the Marine Corps does, depending on when you can take the course and what they cover, and if it's pre-deployment workups or whatever other things there are. Let's go into the beginning of the book. We'll work our way through, starting at the beginning. We'll actually talk about what Bang is. Bang is the event. Whatever the event is, the World Trade Center towers on September 11th, the Oklahoma City bombing, the attack on the Marine Corps barracks in Beirut, like whatever that event is, it doesn't need to be terrorist attacks, which, I mean, those examples all were.
And it doesn't even need to be something on that large of a scale. It could be something a lot smaller and more personal as well.
So as long as we identify what the event is, the bang, the explosion, the bomb, the terrorist attack, the kidnapping, the whatever it is, left of bang is planning and preparation, observation, and pre-event indicators. everything that happens before. Right of bang is everything after the event. The escape, the exploitation, reactions, action on drills, all of the things that happen after whatever that event, the chaos and the aftermath of bang. So the idea is if they were to whiteboard this, the left side of the whiteboard is everything leading up to the event. The event's in the center, and everything following the event is on the right, everything that's reactionary. And one of the key goals of the Combat Hunter program is to get Marines into the mindset where they are acting proactively rather than reactively. So they're acting left of bang. They're doing something before an event happens, before an IED explodes, before they're attacked, before an insurgent sets an ambush. They're whatever those things are to try and get them to be left of bang. And a big part of that is the situational awareness. So we'll get into Cooper's color code. If you don't know Cooper, you're probably not a gun guy, but let's assume you don't know Colonel Jeff Cooper. Cooper came up with a color code around about the time of the Vietnam War. Marine Corps uses a slightly altered version of this, but you get it anywhere that you take situational awareness training stuff. There's colored conditions. Condition white, a low state of psychological awareness or physical arousal, or pardon me, physical arousal. Woo.
Hello.
Physiological arousal. If you're attacked, you're likely to be a victim. So this is somebody who's unprepared, unfocused, completely reactive to the situations going on around them. And there are times when an individual might be in condition white, or you might want to be in condition white, because you can't walk around on edge all the time. You can't walk around always in the yellow or in the orange. So this would be like in your own home is a good time to be in condition white.
Yeah.
Where you're unlikely to be attacked.
Also, I mean, it's not necessarily when you are aware or purposefully doing this. It could also be like you're just really, really tired, or you've had 5 too many beers, things like that. So it's not always by choice that you're in this condition. Sometimes it's because you're just an idiot and oblivious to things by nature, but other times it's, you've done something or haven't done something that is causing you to be in this state. Well,
from condition white, we move to condition yellow. Condition yellow means that the person understands that his or her life is in danger and therefore psychologically prepared to do something about it. The person is actively searching their surroundings to find a threat because he or she is in a moderate level of psychological awareness and psychological arousal. So this is your cop on patrol. This is your Marine walking around on patrol. This is your slightly more than average prepared citizen being aware of what's going on around them. These are people that don't have 45-degree syndrome, that aren't walking around swiping right on Tinder. They have their eyes up. They're looking around. They're aware of what's going on around them. They're making eye contact with people around them. They're assessing for threats. And it doesn't have to be overt threats. This is just people that are aware of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, this could be just you're in downtown Toronto for whatever reason, and you're walking down the street. You're making sure that people don't bump into you or that you don't get hit by a car because you're paying attention to the lights and all. Like, that's what that is. It's not you, with your face down in your phone, not paying attention to things around you. Like, the threat isn't always a guy with a gun. It could be anything.
Condition orange is the mindset in which a person is focused on a specific threat and prepared to take action against that threat. So you've zeroed in on something that's a problem. It's in downtown Toronto, and it's that drunkard that just stumbled out of a bar that's running in, like, just walking into people. He's just not with it. So he becomes your focus. You're now concerned about that guy, or it's the light that's about to change, so you're not going to step out in front of the cars. It's a specific threat in your environment. So you actually become less aware of other things that are going on around you to focus on that. Then we get to the fun one. Condition red, or lethal mode. The psychological willingness to kill if circumstances warrant that action. Condition red is being in the fight. So this is this is the guy with the gun. This is the car that's about to run you over. You need to do something immediately to save your life or the lives of those around you. Dave's here. Hi, Dave.
How's it going, fellas? Actually, I'll be back 1 second. Forgot my beer on the counter.
The worst. The Marine Corps also includes Condition Black. Condition Black is their thing. A person has reached a point where they're now counterproductive. They have an incredibly high heart rate. They're not able to process information. They're basically shut down at this point.
Yeah, you're so overloaded with stuff going on that you can't process. You're basically useless.
So one more time to reiterate: low to high, white, yellow, orange, red, and the Marine Corps added black. Most people walk around in condition white all the time. Most people aren't aware of their surroundings. Most people, I mean, you drive on the 401, you see it all the time. People don't care. They don't pay attention. They're not in the game, right? They're not aware of what's going on around them. A big part of combat profiling, a big part of what's going on with this is just the awareness of your surroundings and what's going on around you. Being in condition yellow and assessing the environment, assessing for threats, and deciding what to do with those threats when they come up. And it, like Gavin says, it doesn't have to be a guy with a gun, but that certainly does make it easier.
Yeah.
Look, an obvious threat.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes, that game that people, some hooligans were playing a few years back where they were just randomly walking up to people and walking down the street, punching them in the face.
Yeah.
So if you're aware of your surroundings, you got to make sure you are not the victim.
It could be, somebody that's driving too fast down a street, not paying attention. If you've got that situational awareness, you can see that car is going too fast or it doesn't seem to be slowing down, or you can then pace yourself and say, well, I'm going to hold back and let this car pass. Like all of those things that you do day to day anyways. I mean, they could all be threats. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a violent attacker. It could be all kinds of different things that are not something you want to have happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some more of the book. We'll jump into what combat profiling is, because that is, I mean, the book is about combat profiling. So what is combat profiling? A practice based on a proactive mindset that incorporates many specific skills. 4 of these are situational awareness, sensitivity of baselines and anomalies, critical thinking, and decision making. Combat profiling allows the Marine soldier or law enforcement officer to proactively identify threats based on human behavior. To do this, that operator must first be actively aware of his or her surroundings. The first skill this method provides is the ability to quickly develop situational awareness. To have situational awareness, you must be able to read both the environment and the people around you. However, you must also be able to separate important from unimportant information. Not everything you see is relevant for identifying threats. The second skill in combat profiling is the ability to determine what indicators are important and directly related to your safety. This means being able to pick up on both overt and subtle clues of the physical environment and people's behavior. Where do we get to the third one? The third skill that combat profiling teaches is critical thinking. We are surrounded by information, ambiguity, and various factors in different situations. No 2 situations are exactly alike. The fourth skill is the ability to make snap decisions or heuristics. Heuristics are ways of making a decision with limited time and information, whether you're in the military, law enforcement. You will never have all the time or information you need to make the perfect decision, so you must make the best decision with what you have. Unfortunately, few people are ever taught how to make a decision. Decision making is either something that you are assumed to have learned throughout your life or taught as a lengthy, deliberate process. Neither of these options help the operator on patrol, so we teach you how to make an accurate decision quickly based on few pieces of relevant information. These are the 4 skills of combat profiling. And this all feeds into what we talked about a little bit ago with the being proactive, operating left of bang, making decisions based on what's going on before the enemy, before whomever, before someone else does something to you or those around you. The book, of course, being targeted at Marines specifically, law enforcement officers to a lesser degree, but anyone that's aware of what's going on around them, really.
Yep.
You're probably not a Marine on a patrol from a fire base in Hemland, but that doesn't mean that situational awareness isn't key to your own survival in downtown Toronto.
Yeah. Situational awareness is something that everybody should have. Sadly, very few people actually do, much like common sense.
Decision making, for that matter, and the ability to articulate those decisions.
Yeah.
Half of situational awareness is just putting the phone in your pocket when you're for half the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and yeah, like being able to make a decision and make a decision quickly, because oftentimes a bad decision made quickly is better than the right decision made too late.
I feel like you're badly quoting Field Marshal Montgomery with like a perfect plan, but I'll take it.
Fair. I like to put things in my own words because I'm a celebrity in my own mind.
Well, as long as you're not a field marshal in your own mind.
No. Not yet.
Sky Marshal.
Yeah, that would be nice. And I could fly with a gun.
All right. Shall we get into the domains?
Yes.
All right.
Should we just kind of explain what the domains are? I guess that's the
I'm
first
gonna-
thing.
Well, there's like .biz that nobody ever has, and then
.gov, that's where all the chooches are.
it's an internet joke out there for all of you people that aren't computer nerds.
So definitely situational awareness, definitely part of this, a big part of the book. Obviously, we're not reading the whole book. I'm just picking out some highlights. A big part of the book is the language around profiling, being able to articulate what you did and why, not because that guy looked like a terrorist, but because this was outside of the baseline. They acted with these anomalies. They met these criterias. They fell into these three clusters. They did the thing that whatever that is. Why did you react the way that you reacted? Why did you do what you did?
Yeah,
and being able to articulate that without biases around appearances or other factors.
Yeah, explaining why that particular person or persons or something stood out to you. Why?
Well, and a big part of the why is going to be that anomalies above the baseline. So everybody knows what baseline is, right? Dave plays baseball. How many bases are there in baseball, buddy?
There's 3 plus home plate.
Right. And they've all got lines between them, right?
Yes, sir.
So if I want to go from, if I want to run from where I start to the first base, the fastest way to get there would be run right up the baseline.
That would be the one. That would be the way.
See, I'm relying on Dave's sports ball knowledge at this point.
Yeah.
Sporting ball.
So anything outside of that baseline are anomalies, either above or below that baseline. So things within the baseline, things like if you're at a store and people are standing in line for the checkout, or let's say it's deli. They're standing in line to get their order picked up. They're picking out produce. They're standing in line to see the cashier. This is all like normal stuff that you expect to see in a grocery store or deli type environment. If you see a guy trying on clothes in the deli, that falls outside of the baseline of what you would expect to see.
Or if he's wearing a big winter jacket in the middle of the summer, that's out of the baseline because he might be concealing something.
Well,
absolutely.
And these are things to individually are maybe not a reason to suspect anything nefarious, but we start adding a couple of things up and, well, maybe something's off, something's not right, and we can articulate what that is.
Yeah, and it's got to, and it could be, in that specific area too, right? Because like if you're looking at, say, people standing next to you in a line while you're waiting at a grocery store, if you're in just a regular grocery store, then there's going to be, space between you. And during the coronas, there's definitely going to be space between you. So if someone, is too close to you, that could be a thing that's out of the baseline. However, we'll get more into it later. But like if you're in Chinatown, where culturally they're used to having less space between people, that's not going to be weird. So your baseline has to be kind of specific to where you are and what's going on at the time.
I think a good piece to touch on with that is that not only where you are, I mean, culturally, yes, there are also issues culturally around personal spaces or behaviors or grooming habits and so on. But a lot of these things are generally universal.
Yes.
Because all humans more or less act the same way. So ignoring proxemics. Thank you, proxemics. Of how close people are together in their checkout line.
And then the biggest thing that stuck out to me is usually when you see these weird behaviors, it's usually when you want to start really paying attention is when you see what they call a cluster of these behaviors. So it's not only is he wearing a heavy coat in the middle of summer, he's also looking around with shifty eyes and you found like 2 or 3 things, and now it's like, okay, he's ticking off the boxes. So now we really need to start paying attention to him.
Yeah, any one thing isn't so weird, and there could be a very valid reason for it. But yeah, it's your baseline is what's normal for the area that you're in at the time that you're in it, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into the 6 domains, because the big part of the book, and I mean, this is a book that I'm probably going to have to read several times to get some of this information to stick, because it's only a 200-page book. It's not a big book, but it is dense.
It is dense.
Especially like I did it on audio to start, and then it started getting into some of this stuff, and it was like, okay, I need a written copy of it. Like
I would catch myself.
And it's not like Grossman's book where it gets super intellectual and autistic about it. Like this is spoken for the most part in very plain English, because it's meant for Marines to be able to understand it.
Hey-o.
But like, they don't overcomplicate it, but there is a lot to take in and to kind of get what they're talking about and how it's relevant.
All right, let's look at the 6 domains. The first of which is
language profiling.
Sorry, no, the first domain is kinesics.
Oh, kinesics. Okay.
Yeah.
So kinesics is the study of body language and accounts for a significant part of all interpersonal communication. Yeah. We use the term kinesics. Pardon me. Our use of the term kinesics may seem too general. For example, we could refine our discussion even further by differentiating between body movements and nonverbal communication that involves touching. However, incorporating additional terminology would create unnecessary distinctions that would hamper rapid observation and effective communication. The purpose of the categories, the 6 domains, is to provide accurate and functional language for individuals to make accurate observations and communicate those observations effectively. So there's disagreement regarding the body language piece. The gist of the book, I guess the gist of their take in the book. Combat profiling relies on observing clusters, which are groups of reinforcing gestures and other nonverbal indicators that communicate the same message. These clusters are then compared to the baseline to identify anomalies. They specifically are not interested in facial expressions, which I found was very different from normal observational profiling type books, papers that I've read before.
Yeah, when you're, interrogating someone, if they're looking this way while they're answering, they're telling the truth or they're not telling the truth, and all of that kind of stuff.
Which in combat profiling is not as important, because we're not worried about micro expressions that only exist for fractions of a second. We're not worried about emotions that can be concealed or hidden or may only be apparent for a short amount of time. We're worried more about, let's call them gross expressions.
Yeah. And you may
Things
not
that you
even
can see at a
be
distance.
close
you're
enough
not up
to
close.
notice. Yeah. Yeah, trying to detect somebody's pupils dilating, or they're looking
I think
up and to
pupils
the left
dilating
or
actually
down
falls
and
into
to
a
the right.
future category under biometrics. But yes, that's the
But the
general
facial
idea.
stuff you're not necessarily going to notice because you may be several hundred meters away
Yeah, you might
when
be
you observe
glassing them.
this person, right?
Well, I mean, a Marine on patrol hundreds of meters away on some kind of magnified optic, a police officer driving down the street, they're
Yeah.
passing foot traffic at 4 or 5 times the speed people walk at.
Yeah.
You're not looking at detailed expressions. You're looking at, are they shaking their fist angrily at the sky?
Yeah, and the whole
That guy's
point of
having a
this is
bad
to
day,
kind
right?
of you use these clusters of behavior to center out people that warrant more observation.
Do they
So
look
let's look at those
comfortable or
clusters.
uncomfortable? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of them. Comfortable, uncomfortable, dominant versus submissive, and interested versus disinterested, or the book calls it uninterested.
But yeah, does the person sitting there look comfortable with himself, or does he look fidgety and wants to get out of there as soon as possible?
Well, and a lot of that I think is variable based on the person and to a certain degree on the culture. But people that are uncomfortable generally look uncomfortable. They fidget, they bounce, they look for exits, they point their body towards those exits. They sit with their legs crossed. They sit or stand with their arms crossed.
Yeah.
They do all of those furtive type movements that make them appear uncomfortable. Where a comfortable person will sit and lounge and splay their legs and take up more space and generally look
lean
at
back
ease with themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there are certain circumstances where people should act as if they are comfortable predominantly or uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure, as a child, we all got called into the principal's office and we'd be sitting out front of the office. That is a time where the vast majority of people would look uncomfortable because you're unsure of what's going on. So you're going to kind of be fidgeting and waiting and all of that. Someone that's comfortable there, and especially somebody that looks too comfortable, would be one of those things that falls outside the baseline.
The other thing to mention with that is of its own, like on any one of those 6 clusters by itself is not enough to be
something to worry about.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, because like we said, there are people that just naturally act one way or the other, despite the fact that, the vast majority of the population would act differently in that situation.
Well, and let's be particular around that too, because there is also acting, like in air quotes, people that act natural that
are not
on closer observation generally are not actually behaving naturally. They are putting on an act.
Yes, but that's why we're looking for clusters of behavior and not just one thing.
And on their own, any one of those one things is not enough of a factor to be like a determining factor, but grouped together, someone who is acting uncomfortable and acting disinterested, not actually disinterested, but someone who is acting disinterested and being uncomfortable and displaying, say, dominance, they probably want to get out of that situation.
Yep.
Do they whether or not they actually want to get out of the situation is a different thing, but it's safe to assume that if they're trying to assert themselves and they're behaving in a way that they appear uncomfortable and they're feigning disinterest, they probably don't want to be there.
Yep. Or if they're, dominant and acting uncomfortable, but are very interested in something, that could be a sign that there's a sort of aggressive moment coming up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that warrants further consideration.
Yep.
Let's move into biometrics. When a person experiences some type of stress, a threatening situation, or a strong emotional response, the person's body experiences certain physiological changes, mostly caused by the responses of the autonomic nervous system and the release of certain hormones such as adrenaline. In fact, these autonomic changes provide the foundation of polygraph tests. These uncontrollable, automatic, and observable reactions that people experience are called biometric cues. Because these cues are closely related to the fight or fight response, combat profilers can observe and read people's biometric cues as indicators that a person may be a potential threat. In short, biometric cues are caused by emotional changes. People experience emotions when something is happening or about to happen that will affect their well-being. Emotions prepare a person to react quickly to a situation by causing physiological changes that help deal with what caused that emotion. While these emotions can be positive or negative, combat profilers are concerned with negative emotions such as anger, fear, contempt, and the way the fight or flight response can be observed on the body as opposed to the facial expressions associated with the emotions. So this is a little bit more subtle than kinesthetics.
Chalk this one up to, is the guy sweating for no apparent reason?
Is he sweating
kind of
if you're close enough to observe the eyes? Are the pupils dilated? Is his eyes darting around? Is he looking for an escape? Is
his hand shaky? That kind of thing.
Was he clenching his fist? Is his hand shaking? Is he flush? Like pale?
Mm.
Is he facing you or a potential target? Like, is he if you think that he's facing a target and that target moves, does his body track that target? Does he continue to move to face them? Right? Because if that's the case, then he's zeroed onto that thing, threat, person, whatever, target. So there are other things that you can do in regards to that. The way the person stands, if you're close enough to observe the perspiration or color changes on their skin, if you can see the changes in their breathing or heart rate, all of that relies on being very, very close to people. It also relies on you being calm enough to observe these things that are changing, because we're talking about very, very minor changes. The differences of a pinpoint pupil in someone's eye, less than a millimeter, to someone being very, very wide-eyed, 8-9 millimeters. Like we're not talking about large observable changes. Whether someone's hand started shaking or not, you have to be pretty close and pretty observant to see these things happening. Proxemics. The way humans use space to communicate is called proxemics. Like other animals, humans move towards what they're attracted to and move away from what they fear. For the combat profiler, the two most significant factors with regards to proxemics are relationship and status. Relationship affects the distance at which two people will stand. For instance, friends stand closer together than they do with strangers. Status is significant in how people use space to communicate, as subordinates rarely initiate contact with someone of higher social rank. Understanding relationship and status in a given situation is crucial to making good observations. Two friends who are maintaining a significant separation from one another may be an anomaly, just as a subordinate initiating contact with a person of higher status may be an anomaly. The use of proxemics in profiling rests on several key principles. In summary, it's basically distance.
Yep.
I mean, the root word is proximity, basically. How close you are to something, or people are to you, or how close they allow people to get to them, or how close they're moving to something.
People generally don't let people they don't know into their personal bubble.
Intimate space?
Yeah.
Okay, the book calls it intimate space. Intimate zone.
Arm's length.
Intimate zone.
Yeah. And the closer you are to somebody in a relationship, the closer you will be physically to them, or that you allow them to be physically close to you. So your work colleagues, if you guys are walking down the street, you will stand a certain distance apart naturally. Your good friends will stand just that little bit closer, and then your significant other or others will be even closer still, right?
So
To
the
the
way
point
that
of
they break
touching.
this down in the book, they call this the intimate zone, the personal zone, and social and public zones.
Yeah, which they interchange. They said basically it's the last two are basically the same thing. You're a stranger for the for all intents and purposes.
You're outside of arm's reach.
Yeah.
The intimate zone is what it sounds like, somebody that can touch you. The personal zone is within arm's reach, and social and public are beyond arm's reach.
Yeah.
And we
The other
do
thing
this.
with
Sorry, I was just going to say it's actually just a primal instinct thing. We just want to keep more distance between things that we don't know because they could be threats, and so that way we give ourselves more time to react to the threat.
Yeah. For example, I mean, Andrew and I are in the same bubble, so we stand very close to one another.
Incredibly close. Awkwardly even.
Yeah, so close that I don't know where my beard ends and his begins.
I am the Velcro that holds the beards together.
The other element of proxemics is movement. So the first factor being distance, the second factor being movement. Again, the police officer on patrol, the Marine on patrol, they're talking about if you're walking and someone starts walking away from you or starts walking towards you, or if they're walking parallel to you, if they pick up a pace to stay in line with you, all of these factors with movement come into play.
Yeah.
Are they normal for people to do that? Are they abnormal for people to do that? It's really easy to say if you're a police officer on patrol, simple example, if you're walking your beat and someone sees you, kinesic, right? They see you, you make eye contact. And then proxemic, they turn and walk away from you. These are two behaviors that are becoming suspicious.
Yep.
Right? So if we have other things from our other domains, say they're I don't know, clothing, which will fall under iconography. They're wearing an all blue outfit in downtown Toronto. And it's a baggy coat and a bandana in the winter. I'm not sure about you, but I'm going with drug dealer.
Yeah.
You can also tack on biometrics on there too.
Yeah. I mean, and
well,
even
if you're close enough to do the biometrics thing.
If he looks at you and then his face goes pale and then he turns away and starts running, you just got a cluster of three things. You should probably he's probably guilty of something.
That, and in falling into the proxemics, when you're talking about groups of people too, you'll see like who's the one that's leading the movement of the group. Because that person will generally be in the front of it, and that's also kind of how you tell, like, are these people acting as a group or are they paying attention to one person? Like, and that all kind of ties into that as well. So you may not always be looking at one person, but it's a group of people.
There could be other things that a group could be drawn towards, such as an object or a place, or other groups is also an option.
Yep.
So do you suddenly see somebody walking towards a entrance in a building or away from an entrance in a building? Are they exhibiting any other non-baseline characteristics?
Like you're downtown at a rally for free speech, and then all of a sudden a small group of people in black hoodies with either black or red bandanas come out and sort of make a direct beeline towards the people wearing, conservative clothing or MAGA hats in the US, right?
Back into the book here. Geographics. I think I actually want to read the quote that they use. It's from a Los Angeles police officer. In Los Angeles, every street is claimed by one gang or another. It doesn't matter if it's the suburbs or the streets the police station is on. A gang will claim they own it. Some streets are more contested than others, but the first step in understanding crime here is to understand who has claimed what. Geographics is pretty straightforward.
Sure.
How do people move through the area they're in? Who are they? Who are their enemies? That's really all there is to geographics. There's a bunch of other details, but the gist of it is who owns the area. How does that area work? Where's
the proverbial lines of their walls?
Mm-hmm. There needs to be some understanding of natural lines of drift, which is really to do more with movement through an area than the actual geographic layout of an area. Natural lines of drift are the path of least resistance for travel. So,
like a goat path.
Walking on the already existing trail, driving down the street that's not congested. The other piece in geographics that's probably newer for people that aren't familiar with these things, habitual areas and anchor points. Habitual areas are common places where people go to do common things. The mall. You go to the mall to go shopping. So does everybody else. We all go to the same mall to go shopping.
Everybody goes to the park to eat their lunch.
Right? These are habitual areas. These are areas of habit where people go, usually public spaces where lots of people go to do a common repetitive task. Eating their lunch in the park, going shopping at the mall, buying groceries at the grocery store. However, anyone can go to these places. Generally, there's not a lot of security. Generally, there's not a lot of people observing these places. It's easy for crowds to congregate. It's easy for people to meet. It's easy for people to disperse without being noticed. The other geographic feature is an anchor point. This is somewhere a person keeps going. Your home, for example. The place that you work at. Your clubhouse for your beer and chicken wing eating club. They can be public places. Generally, they're private places. Generally, they have smaller audiences than your habitual areas. So it's not that everyone goes to the mall. It's that you're going to your house. Your family goes to your house. Maybe you have some friends that occasionally go to your house. But if you observe these areas, it's easier to notice that specific people are going to them and coming and going. It's less likely that you're going to have visitors or unvetted persons at these locations. And with anchor points, that can be temporary. Going back to our gang example, it doesn't have to be a building. It could be a street corner. And it could be an anchor point for as long as there are gangsters at that street corner selling drugs. And as soon as they leave, the street corner goes back to just being a habitual place in the neighborhood that people walk by. Probably not a lot of people walking by while gangsters are there trying to sell drugs, though.
Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into iconography. Iconography is visual language. We see it everywhere. Symbols on t-shirts, tattoos, graffiti on buildings, traffic signs, advertisements, and the images companies use to identify and market their products. An icon is a symbol used to promote a person or group's presence, beliefs, or affiliations. Individuals and groups use iconography to draw allies and convert them, to intimidate enemies and drive them away, to further their agendas, to boast, to brag, to bully, and to buffalo. Iconography often communicates complex messages through simple pictures, symbols, and writing. Iconography is not directly an aspect of human behavior. It is not driven by the limbic system or autonomic processes. Iconography, particularly personal iconography that is easily masked or hidden, tattoos, or changed clothing. We include iconography as one of the domains because combat profilers can use iconography to increase their situational awareness. Paying attention to iconography opens the combat profiler's eyes to messages being communicated by symbols in the environment. And that, I think, is the key takeaway for iconography. It can be lots of things, but it's symbols in the environment, whether it's clothing or graffiti or face tattoos.
I was gonna say gang tagging is usually the main one, right? If you know the iconography for the gang tagging, you can know, okay, that's street corners for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, in a gang setting, yeah, graffiti is a big deal. Tagging, tattoos. They quote some stats in the book. It's like 32% of criminals. I get probably it's incarcerated or former inmates. 32% have tattoos versus like 6% of the population on the whole. U.S. statistics from 2011, but I think it has also more to do with the type and location of tattoos, which if you're in that line of work is probably more relevant to you. Although I feel like teardrop tattoos are a universal fuck off symbol.
Yeah, although, I mean, like my example earlier, like guys wearing black or red face bandanas, I mean, that's going to identify you as Antifa for the most part. Right?
Yeah, and there can be other things with clothing. Yeah. It could be jewelry or badges or
blue hair
emblems on those
blue
items.
Hair.
Blue hair, problem glasses.
Yeah. Denim vests. Yeah, there's, and then, on the other side, I mean, Hawaiian shirts, multicam pants.
Well, let me read to you from the day that Timothy McVeigh was wrongfully arrested.
Yeah.
On the day that Timothy McVeigh was arrested, the same day that he blew up the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, he was wearing a T-shirt with a picture of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Latin phrase "Sic Semper Tyrannis" on the back. Quote attributed to Thomas Jefferson: "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." John Wilkes Booth was said to have cried "Sic Semper Tyrannis" after shooting Abraham Lincoln. McVeigh wore the shirt because it displayed his ideology, which drove his decision to attack the federal building and kill almost 170 people. Probably not going to have a bunch of people walking around with T-shirts with Abraham Lincoln on it. But if you see it after somebody blows up a building, it could be related.
Especially if it says the Latin phrase on the back.
Yeah, thus always to the tyrant, "Sic Semper Tyrannis."
Yeah, which, by the way, makes an excellent tattoo.
Can't argue with that. I think the other piece
so
of
screwed at some point in time. I could have all these tattoos like that. I'm going to get stopped, and they're going to just think I've committed like every recent crime.
You will get blamed for it all.
Good times.
The final domain in combat profiling. This one is less accurately named than the other five. What the authors call atmospherics. Atmospherics can be defined as the collective mood of a situation or place. I'm not reading the rest of the examples, but
yeah, it's basically the atmosphere of the situation that you're in, or the grocery store is is it calm, is it hectic because it's right before Thanksgiving? The atmosphere, I guess, is what they're getting at.
That is, I think, what they're getting at is what is everybody out going about their business? Is it abnormally quiet? Is it abnormally hectic?
Mm-hmm.
Is there?
Yeah, is the normally hustle, is the normally bustling, markets, inner city market, all of a sudden really quiet for no apparent reason, in the middle of the afternoon on its busiest day, right? Something's probably about to go down. That's not good.
Yeah.
Well, has the noise level or activity level changed? Is there suddenly changes in the amounts of order or disorder?
You just have that weird feeling, right? Like You can't put your
Well,
finger on it, but there's something about the situation that just doesn't feel right.
In the book, they actually say that you need to put your finger specifically on something. What
Yes, but
is
like,
different?
but that's what's going to cue you into the like. There's
Start paying
something
attention.
wrong.
Start paying attention. Start really
Like
looking around.
try to figure out what that is. But yeah, like if you're okay, I'm at the grocery store and it just doesn't feel right. You're like, okay, it's way busier than it should be because everybody's panic buying toilet paper for wave 652 of the coronavirus. Or whatever it is, like you got to do that, but you'll get that feeling that something just isn't right, and that's when you kind of gotta, what is it?
Yeah. And with atmospherics, it's generally the mood of the people in a specific place.
Yeah.
The mood is sort of a vague general term, but what is different that's registering with everybody in that environment?
Yeah. Like you're at a firearms town hall and Blair walks in and all of a sudden the room just gets angry.
You can smell the disgust in the air.
No, that smell that's his body excreting the alcohol.
Yeah.
Or I thought it was the bullshit coming out of his mouth.
That too.
That's a different smell.
Ah.
It's not when he gets there. That's after he gets up the front and starts talking.
Yeah, but those two things don't mix well together.
Let's start rounding out the book here. The combat rule of 3. An effective method of decision making should have a threshold of decision. This is the point at which, no matter what, you must make a decision. A threshold of decision guards against hesitation and indecision due to overanalysis or waiting for additional information. The combat profiling threshold is called the combat rule of 3. When you observe 3 anomalies or indicators, you must make a decision. Do not wait for more information. 3 indicators are enough information with which to act. Does this mean that you have to have 3 anomalies to make a decision? No. In some situations, 1 anomaly or indicator is sufficient. For instance, following the usual rules of engagement, if an individual exhibits a hostile act or hostile intent, 1 indicator is enough. Someone presenting a weapon in a hostile way towards a Marine on patrol or a cop on the street is all it takes to engage that individual with deadly force. Vehicle checkpoints often have a trigger line, a point at which if a vehicle crosses without first coming to a stop and being waved through by friendly force personnel, the vehicle will automatically either be shot at with a warning shot or fully engaged by fire. But the trigger line serves as a threshold of decision. No more information is needed. Crossing the trigger line demonstrates a hostile act that is enough to make a decision. The reality is that no other information has to be collected in those situations. A Marine providing security for a checkpoint usually has this one piece of information with which to work. Vehicles approaching a checkpoint with intent to do harm to the security personnel at the checkpoint often travel at high rates of speed. There is no time to collect any other information. Marines can't converse with the driver or read his intent based on facial expression or emotions, yet a decision must be made. In the majority of situations, 1 indicator may not be enough. For instance, any internet search of deception detection or lie detection will result in a host of pseudoscience websites and blogs that claim to tell you about how to detect if someone is lying. Many of them list certain foolproof indicators. Common among these foolproof indicators are fidgeting or shaking hands. These websites claim that you can tell someone is lying based on this indicator. This just isn't true. So that's really all it is. Do you have 3 anomalies? Do you have three clusters of data to work from, or have you met a trigger line? And we'll get into that in a minute. Let's go into the 3 decisions, then we'll talk about the military application versus the civilian application. The 3 decisions. Before we discuss the 3 decisions, we should make it clear that the original purpose of combat profiling is to train Marines to be better and faster decision makers in combat. Therefore, the 3 decisions that reflect reality Any application of combat profiling in other situations by other security personnel or even the average person wanting to be more aware and stay safe on a daily basis will have to adapt these decisions to their particular circumstances. On that note, the 3 decisions that the combat profiler may make are kill, capture, or contact, in that order. This doesn't mean the first thing the combat profiler does is kill. It means that in a given situation, in a potentially hostile environment, the first decision that a combat profiler should make is to kill or prepare to kill if an individual does not commit a hostile act or demonstrate hostile intent or provide indicators of an immediate threat. Then the combat profiler moves on to the next decision, capture. If the individual does not give off indicators of potential threat, or if the person does not appear to be a significant intelligence value, then the combat profiler moves on to the next and final decision, contact. If for some reason the individual gives off further indicators, then the combat profiler may move back up the decision tree to capture or kill if necessary. So, applying this to the Marines, for which the Combat Hunter program is targeted at, is the person acting or intends to be hostile? Shoot them in the face. Do they have other potential threats? Capture them. Are you physically able to contact them? Yes, then contact them. If no, then further observation. And this is for somebody who's an actual threat that warrants attention, not everybody that you come across day to day.
Yeah, these people have exhibited enough hinky behavior that you've needed to observe them closely and make a decision.
In the civilian side of the world, we have a slightly different set of criteria because we can't walk around physically and psychologically prepared to kill people that cross our paths, although that would certainly make life more interesting. For civilians in non-combat situations, we recommend run, hide, fight. For a civilian who encounters an attacker, the best chance for that person's survival is to put as much distance as possible between him or herself and the threat. The greater the separation, the harder it is for an attacker to be effective, require a higher degree of skill to use a weapon effectively and to its fullest capacity. When fleeing is not viable, the second option is to hide from the attacker and create as many barriers as possible to avoid being seen and to find protection. Finally, the third option exists for times when all other chances of avoiding confrontation are no longer available. In this case, fighting the attacker through any means available may be the only chance of survival. This option is a last choice because it is inherently the most dangerous.
So Marines, option 1, shoot him in the face. Civilians, option 3, shoot him in the face.
I mean, kind of. And this is one of those things that if you're going to be a prepared individual, if you're going to be aware of your surroundings, if you're going to make a decision to look after your health and welfare and that of those that you love and those around you, you need to make a decision that if violent things happen and bad people plan to do bad things, how are you planning to respond to that? And the time to figure that out is not when you're in a mass shooting environment where you're running through a mall in Kenya waiting for the SAS guy to come and save everyone.
Yeah,
It's not
that would
during the
definitely be
school
a
shooting.
condition black.
It's not during the school shooting where you're in lockdown and you have your class of 30 kindergartners and you're trying to shelter in place.
Yeah.
You need to decide before bang what you're willing to do and what you're going to do in a given situation. You need to have worked out your what if games.
Yeah.
You're going to keep staying left of it, or are you going to?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is where like a lot of people call this kind of whole thing an OODA loop. So you observe, you orientate towards the thing you're observing, you decide, and then you act. Right? That's kind of this whole thing.
OODA loop goes back to like what, World War II fighter pilot training.
Sure.
The guy that wins dogfights is the guy that gets inside the other guy's OODA loop. Whoever can observe and
complete that loop
is the guy that's going to win.
Yeah. You know, and
so having already made those decisions in advance means that you have the potential to win. You're disadvantaged by if you find yourself with violence brought upon you and you haven't already made the decision with how you're going to act in a given situation,
Yeah.
you're reacting, you've lost the element of surprise.
Yeah.
You probably don't have a home field advantage.
Yeah.
You might have a home field advantage if it's in your own home. Like that would be the time you would literally have a home field advantage because you know the way your house is laid out. Because you get up in the middle of the night and walk through the house without lights on to go take a leak, and some guy breaking into your house has never been there before, probably.
Yeah.
Or he's never been there before and like walk through it every night at 2 a.m. to go take a leak.
Yeah. But yeah, if you haven't long in advance of a violent act being committed towards you, decided that you will meet that violent act with more extreme violence, you're behind the 8 ball already. You're because you have to make that decision, and then you have to continue on with everything else. So you've added one more step in your OODA loop that you need to act or decide upon before you can close that loop. If you've already decided long before then that, like, if some a-hole is going to jump out at me and try to hurt me, I have zero problem hurting that person in return. You've made one decision already, and you're that much faster at deciding now how you're going to do that.
Probably one of my favorite lines from Firefly is
I'll be in my bunk.
When Mal's talking to River. No, when Mal's talking to River, if somebody tries to kill you, you try to kill them right back.
Yeah.
Like that's good life advice right there.
Yeah.
But you
make them rue the day they tried to end you. Make them rue the day.
Yeah.
You have to be willing in advance to have made that decision that if somebody tries to kill you, that you're going to try to kill them right back.
Yeah. And you're going to need to,
that's, that's applicable for somebody shopping in the mall. If we can ever go back to shopping in malls once Rona's over, or if you're a first year kindergarten teacher, are you going to protect your 30 kindergartners, or are you going to shelter in place and hope for the best?
But you need to do it in the appropriate way. So, like, you're going to need speed, surprise, and violence of action. That's how you win a confrontation.
Well, and let's assume that you've probably already lost surprise. You're probably reacting to somebody else. So that leaves you speed.
Better be faster and more violent. Yeah.
So that's really your choices. Figure out how to be aggressive with the violence.
Yeah, because knowing is half the battle. The other half is extreme violence.
It really is.
Yeah.
So I'm totally on board with the whole run, fight, height mentality. That's the way that they've done the active shooter training. That's the way that the active killer defense classes are taught. That's what they're teaching teachers now.
Well, and I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, I don't want to have to risk myself if I don't have to. And same with any good self-defense instructor. They're going to tell you that the best defense against something is to get the hell out of there.
Well, I mean, that's true of really any fight.
Yeah.
Distance equals safety.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter if you're doing combatives, if you're in like a striking match, or if you're in a shooting match, or if you're using artillery pieces. There's sort of
further away you are, the better.
Well, if someone is unarmed, the two places that they can hurt you are if you're right next to them, or if they can get something to get to you.
Yep.
So there's generally a distance where you're far enough away that they're going to be ineffective, right?
Yep.
If they have some sort of projectile weapon, like a firearm or an artillery piece, being really, really close to them is going to make them ineffective, and being really far away from them is going to make them ineffective.
Yep.
Because they can't close that middle distance. The middle distance is the dangerous part with projectiles.
Yep.
Right? If Gavin has a firearm and he points it at me and I can close the distance and I can stand laterally to him, if I can get off to one flank, left or right, I can potentially gain control of the firearm and keep him from pointing it at me, right? I can control his arm and I can keep it pointed away. Yeah. But I have to be really, really, really close to do that. Or
you have to be really, really, really far away from me.
Far away so that his firearm becomes ineffective.
Yeah.
right? So depending on what the weapons are that you're faced with, your choices are to get really close and be very violent, or just get really far away.
Yeah. And even better if you're far away and they can't see you. Hence the hide.
Well, and this is the concealment and cover aspect of this.
Yeah.
And not in the book, but what's the difference between concealment and cover?
Well, one's going to stop bullets and the other isn't.
That's right. Concealment means they can't see you. Cover means they can't hit you.
Yeah. One is infinitely better than the other, but one is better than nothing.
Well, almost all cover is concealment, and most concealment is not cover.
Yeah. Especially when you have the moist nugget.
Yeah, the speedy chunky boy.
Yeah.
All right, I think that pretty well wraps up my notes, the highlighted sections that I had in the book. Did you guys have anything I missed out on, or anything you wanted to further discuss?
No, I think you pretty much touched everything there. It's pretty good.
I mean, we said it earlier. I definitely think this is one of those books that, like, the more you read it, the more you'll get from it. And it's one of those things that, like, you kind of have to practice this stuff. Like,
yeah, I feel like I need to read more books regarding some of the stuff they're talking about to know what I'm looking for.
I mean,
for some of the
pretty
stuff
sure
as
it's
well.
already on the list at some point, or will be. But Gift of Fear is a very good book to pair this with, because it talks about some of the same things but in a different way. But it's more just being aware of the way people act, and, like, listening to your gut feeling about things and not over analyzing things. Like this says, like, if you see these three things, you have to make a decision and act on that decision automatically. There's no time to get any more information. You need to decide right now. And, like, that's important, because, like, there's too many people that want to get too much information on a thing, and then it's just like, okay, at this point it's too late. You're getting punched in the face. You're, like, it's no. You got to make a decision quickly, and a lot of people they're not good at that. Like, how many people have asked their girlfriend, where you want to go eat tonight? People are not good at making decisions. Somehow it seems that girlfriends and wives are really horrible at making that particular decision. But you just got to get better at it in practice, right? And the way to do that is you go and hang out at the mall, or when you're going shopping or whatever, kind of watch people, watch their body language, watch how people interact. That helps you develop that baseline for that particular type of a place, which you can then, if you're in a mall in North America, and then all of a sudden you go to a market in the Middle East, I mean, they're totally different, but they're also very similar. So you can
people are the same. That's
the baseline.
Humans are going to human.
Yeah, you can use the baseline that you've established in a similar situation to help you form a baseline faster in the situation that you're in now. Might not be exactly the same, but it'll be pretty close.
I think this is one of those things that I didn't realize, because of the industry that I'm in and the jobs that I've had, is how many people suffer from 45-degree syndrome. How many people walk through the airport, or walk through the mall, or walk through the grocery store looking down at their phones and not looking at what's going on around them. So I constantly, when I used to travel for work, not that I can do that anymore because of coronation, but when I used to travel for work, or when I used to be able to go out to do things, I would constantly see people having near misses, or almost walking into things, or actually walking into things or other people, because they were not paying attention to what was going on around them.
The best is at airports, when you got, like, these pillars that are, 8 feet around, and people almost go, like, directly right into
walk into one of those and smoke themselves. Yeah. But this is one of those, and I guess I should have realized how oblivious your average person is from watching your average person just float through life. Because I make an effort when I'm out to watch people, to watch a lot of these things that I didn't realize I was doing. What was in the Combat Hunter program, I was just watching people being idiots.
Yeah. People watching, especially at places like the airport, or like social gathering places, like, I mean, it's not so much of a thing in like this area because we don't do that, but like in Europe where you have like public squares where people will just like hang out, and like it's really fun watching people interact because people
Oh,
are all kinds of weird. Like,
we have a public park area very near to where I live that my wife and I walk through, and we play a game where we narrate other people's lives. Park or they're sitting in
nice.
the car, and we try to guess what they're doing, like why they're there and what's going. Because we'll go through and there'll be like all of a sudden there'll be a day where like every parking spot in the lot is full, so we'll come up with the reasons why that they're sitting there. We're bullshitting. It's not really a real thing, but just working through what's going on with the people around us. It's kind of like the when you're driving, if you ever play the they'll get eaten by zombies game, you try to identify the people that they'll get eaten by zombies because they're not paying attention or because they're doing something silly.
Yep. I like to do
Double
sort
tap.
of similar things, like especially like when I've been doing a lot of traveling and I'm traveling on my own, I'll kind of do the same thing. I'll be sitting at like the lobby bar or the airport bar and kind of just watch people and kind of do the same thing.
Yep.
Where you make up stories for people and try to figure out what's going on with them, and who knows who and how they're related, and just a fun game to play when you've got nothing else to do.
It is a fun game to play, but it does once you. I think I'm going to change how I play those games after having read Left of Bang now, because it's like, well, I used to sit at like hotel bars because when I traveled for work before the Corona times, that was a convenient place for me to go drinking, and I would watch people because I enjoyed watching people because I'd see what the idiots were up to.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to do things like go through the kinesics and see like, is this guy that just walked in looking around because he's trying to find someone, or because he's trying to find the bathroom, or is he lost, or is he checking in and he's not been here before, or is it like,
is he interested in the conversation or
the front desk? Right? Is he a guy that's been here 100 times?
Is he showing dominance in the group? Is he uncomfortable? Is he submissive?
Right. So I want to change how I play some of those. How I play some of those games, because I've played a lot of those games for a long time, just because I enjoy watching people in public places being dumb.
Yeah. The other game I like to play when I'm in public places is how I'm going to rob this place.
And where are all the exits?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I don't know that that's combat profiler exactly, but that's like situational
that's the other fun
things.
It's the other fun game I like to play, but from the other side.
Well, but that's one of those situational awareness things. Where are all the cameras and exits? Is a potentially useful piece of information.
Yeah, to help keep yourself left.
Well, exactly, to stay left bang. So if you're at a restaurant and completely innocent thing, the kitchen catches on fire. It's not even like, it's not a robbery. It's not anything. Because I've been in a restaurant when they caught a thing in the kitchen on fire before and I had to leave. And I mean, like, most people's instinct is to go back out the door they came in, which is probably the main door, which is the same place that everybody's going. But it's like when they give you the safety briefing on the airplane.
If there's an exit right there.
Exit rows.
Yeah.
The closest exit might be the one right behind you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Pay attention to that.
Being aware of where the exits are, being aware of where the cameras are, being aware of where people are working or not.
Mm-hmm.
For completely innocent reasons as well as potentially nefarious ones.
Yeah.
I also like to play the game of Find the Veteran.
Mm.
This is another one of those, like, in public places. It's easier to do in the US because you get a lot more bro vets in the US.
Yeah.
But or playing Find the Veteran is also a fun game, or Find the Off-Duty Cop is also a fun game.
Yeah.
It's particularly fun when you win.
Yeah.
Right. So when you play Find the Off-Duty Cop and I go, hey, Gavin, that guy at the bar, we're running from the left. That guy, look at the haircut. That guy's an off-duty cop. And then when he goes to pay later and you see the shield in his wallet and it's like, oh yeah, that was actually an off-duty cop.
Yeah. But I mean, like the 511 chinos and like quick draw shirt usually gives it away.
Could be a giveaway. Could be a giveaway.
But yes, games like that are very fun. We need to play
Yeah.
those more often as a group when we're out drinking.
We should.
Well, I
Means
think
we
that's
have
one
to
of
go
those,
out more.
one of those left of
Yeah.
bang things is because it's a situational awareness thing. It's being aware of what's going on around you. And I mean, in this case, we're not necessarily dealing in all 6 of the domains, but you're dealing with a few of those, the iconography.
Yeah. It's all
the
good
kinesics.
practice, right? It's every time you
Well,
get better
and that's
at
the
reading
biggest
that.
thing I
it's-
think with
Yeah.
this is that you need to practice it, because reading the book on its own is not
Yeah.
enough. There's an anecdote at the end of the book. They're saying a Marine patrol going out from their fire base or their forward operating base. I forget where they were. I think it was in Afghanistan. They're going out into the community, and they have to make an average of like 45 patrols before they can establish a good baseline.
Yeah, makes sense.
But
So
I mean,
the solution to this is practice, right? Do it more.
well, so for your Patriot challenge, when you're looking for something to do to practice a skill for 10 minutes, here you go. Here's a skill you can practice for 10 minutes.
Go people
We
watching
just
at the
gave you a
park
bunch
for
of games
5
that we
or
like
10
to play.
minutes.
Yeah.
Just go sit on the park bench and watch people
Yeah.
fumble about through
People
their lives.
watching is super fun, man.
Yeah.
Be surprised what you see.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Mm.
I used to be. People don't really shock me anymore.
man.
Yeah, I mean the shock value's gone, but I mean it's still like you won't believe what happened today.
So
when you get home, it's a good story.
I've got a funny story about people watching while drinking. So when I was in university, we were at a bar one night. I know, shocking. But we're sitting there having a couple of beers, and my one roommate looks over at a table of a bunch of younger students that were there drinking. And he goes, I think that girl is giving that guy a hand job under the table around their group of friends. So I turn around and look, and I'm just like, yep, that's definitely happening right there. So both my roommate and I both turn to them, obviously, and both give her the thumbs up. Yeah, her face went red. It was awesome.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They thought they were so sneaky, but no.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's the same with a couple coworkers on a business trip that we're obviously hanging out in the same room after hours. So you guys are way more obvious than you think. You think you're fooling everybody. It's like, no. It's so simple.
People watch, pay attention, man. Situational awareness. You'll have some good laughs.
Yeah, they're petting each other's legs, thinking that we didn't see behind didn't see the table. Like, where are their hands?
All right. Next
Good times.
month, when we do book club for November, November's book is going to be 12 Rules for Life: An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan Peterson. If you haven't already started reading, well,
Good luck.
you've got a month, but you probably needed 2. It's a little thick.
Yeah.
I'll see how far I can
C's.
get.
2 C's.
2 C's.
Yeah. It is an awesome book. Awesome. But it is dense.
Thick.
Like, I couldn't do more than like 30 minutes a day with it. And it's like a 14-ish hour book, so you can do it.
November, Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. Also, if you want to get yourself an official Big Luau shirt, Amazon affiliate link there. We'll go around the virtual table here. Dave, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Find me on the IGs at Diesel6223.
All right. Gavin, where can everybody find you?
You can find me also on the gram, UrbexGTA, all one word.
All new.
If
all
you've
one word.
if you've listened to our show this long, you deserve a discount code. Go to ragnaroktactical.ca and use the discount code Patriot at checkout. Save yourself some money. We do $10 flat rate shipping on everything. If it's on the website, it's probably in stock unless I've created an inventory error. And for Gene, I apologize about the tacos. I overate. I actually oversold, but either way, working on getting tacos. We've got a fair size HSGI order that should be getting close to shipping up here unless the Americans burn their entire country down in the next couple weeks.
Entirely
not totally,
possible.
not totally impossible.
Well, that's why I'm warning everybody. We might get HSGI order. The Americans might burn down their country. It's hard to say at this point. We value your opinion. Send us your feedback by emailing us feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com. Let us know what you think. And in the context of this episode, let us know what books you'd like us to add to book club. We've had a couple of people make suggestions. We put them on the list. We have a big list of books that we're working our way through. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. We couldn't fit him on the show this evening. We'll try and get him on for book club next month when we talk about 12 rules for life. I understand Rod has one about how pretty BC is. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.